Hey there, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. I am super excited about this one. It was highly requested. So in my craft room tour a little while back, I stopped at my little embellishment drawer and I said, these fairy lights would be really great for interactive cards, these fun little string lights. And I talked about them a little while and closed the drawer and didn't think much of it. But a lot of you guys commented down below in the comment section and said you would love to see how to use these inside of a card. So today I have a really fun card sharing exactly how to use these inside, and you can really kind of change it up and create whatever kind of card you want. I think it's just a really cool way to add tons of light to a card and make it pretty affordable too, since these are pretty cheap on Amazon. So if you haven't seen my craft room tour, I'll have it linked on screen right here so you guys can check that out, or after the video you can check it out too. And without further ado, let's get right on into the project. Okay, so for this project, you want a die with a little bit of open space in it. So you can see this one has lots of open space in between those sun rays, and that'll allow for a really great background that can light up. And also this lighthouse collage is obviously perfect for the card we're creating today. So I've added that onto the center of a card base, and I'm also going to cut out the little portion that's going to go behind the lighthouse. And then I'm going to run that through my Gemini Junior, and that'll die cut it really nicely. So after I've run it through there, you can see the die. It comes out here all nice and cut out. And then you have all these little pieces that kind of are the negative portion of the die cut. Now it just dawned on me after I had done all of this that you could actually definitely glue these and create another card. So here's another quick card idea. I could have definitely picked them up with press and seal, and I have videos on that you can check on screen right now. But these were pretty easy, so I just took all those pieces and filled right back in those gaps after putting on the positive portion, and then I can glue all these little tiny negative pieces right into their little spaces there. I'm just using Collage Matte Medium to do so. I think it's a really nice strong adhesive, and it really holds these little pieces down nicely. So just adding some glue in between each little area, and then finding the little piece that coordinates and sticking it right in there. Now I'm just doing with this my fingers, but you could definitely use little pickup tools too, and that could be pretty helpful. So after I give it a little bit of time to dry, I'm going to peel this off carefully and slowly, making sure all the pieces stay in the background, and here you have that fun little raised up area. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I colored this. If you don't like it, just skip ahead a little bit so we can get to the light up card. Here I'm just going in, and I could have definitely left that positive portion on and just thrown that out after I was done. It would make coloring this a little bit easier, but I just stayed on those raised areas, and I'm just going to go in and color. So for this lighthouse, I'm adding the shadows to the sides to make it look nice and round, and then coloring it in with a lighter Copic marker right in between. And then to color the rays, I'm just doing like a similar thing where I add a darker color on the inside and bring it out to a lighter color. I did lots of coloring and blending on this one. I thought it was definitely needed since it's a pretty simple card how it is, but with all this coloring it makes it look really awesome. So I'm going in here and I'm just finishing off those little rays, and I love using Copic markers for something like this because it blends so nicely, but you could obviously use whatever you're comfortable with, so whether that's colored pencils or watercolors, you can really experiment with what you're coloring with. So after I've colored those rays in, I'm going to color the little background area here. Now these portions are big and blue, and you could obviously just do one solid area of color and that would look perfectly fine, but here I'm adding a little bit of shading. So I'm going to throw down a little bit of a darker blue color and then come in with a lighter blue and blend that all together. And you can see a little tiny spot there that has some of that multi-matte medium on it, and it actually resisted the Copic marker. You can see that little tiny area there. So you just want to be careful when you're using your liquid glue to not get it on the parts you want to color. So it was just a little mess up there, but it didn't really take away from anything from the card. So I'm just finishing coloring off that top little blue section, and I really like how this kind of negative portion card turned out. So even using those little inside pieces of the die cut really creates a cool and unique card, and it was pretty quick and easy to create too. So it didn't take too much time or effort, but there you go, you have a card right there and ready to go. Okay, so moving on into the actual light up card now, we're going to create that whole card with the light up background, which I think is really fun. So we're obviously going in here and doing a little bit of coloring. This one's a little bit less coloring heavy, but you got this little portion that goes right behind the lighthouse there, and I'm going to color this whole thing red. So like I did before, since it's a circular object, I'm going around the outsides and coloring it darker, and then shading the inside with a lighter color to make it look a little bit round. Now, here's a fun trick. If you don't have another darker marker than this, you can always go in with like kind of a gray marker, and that'll create a shadow there, and then go back over with a red marker, and it kind of just blends that together but creates a lot darker of a color. So that's kind of a hack to get a darker color of marker when you don't really have one. So then I'm going to put that behind there just to kind of test it out a little bit, and that's how it's going to look. I think that's lots of fun. And then I've colored in that top portion gray, and I'll color in these little rays too. So I'm shading them just how I did earlier with those 3 colors of yellow, and I'm being a lot less careful now here because I can just kind of wipe off my mat after I'm done. So I'm adding color a little bit outside of that circle, and then to kind of blend that into the white, I'm using a 000 Copic marker just to kind of blend that all together. Now there's this little white portion down here, but instead of leaving it white, I want to give it some dimension. So I'm adding a little bit of gray coming in from both edges, again to make it look round, but to give it a little bit of shading too. So after I've colored that in with that little bit of shading, I'm going to then go on to the back of this lighthouse and add a little bit of that collage matte medium. So this is going to adhere that red piece right to the back of the lighthouse. And I like that they did this with a separate piece, so then you can make some of it, you know, that white color and some of it the red, and it's really easy to kind of fit together, and I love how that looks. So after I've done that, I thought that looked great how it was, but I'm going to take this Ellen Hudson Home and Hearth die set, and it's got these fun houses, trees, and stars in it, as well as little hearts. And I think it's a great set for kind of little add-on images. I'm going to cut out a couple different trees, and I'm shading them in using some Copic markers really simply, just like I did all the other images, just with one lighter color and then a little bit of a darker color to add just a little bit of depth and dimension. So after I've shaded these little trees in, I'm going to throw them in the background here to kind of finish off the scene and make the card and background look a little bit more finished. So I'm just going to take the trees and glue them right behind the die cut window with some collage matte medium, and I like to do things in kind of groupings of 3. So you'll see I'm adding 2 trees to one side kind of clustered together, and then on the other side of the image I'm adding the last tree there, and that's kind of the rule of odds, so it looks a little bit more pleasing to the eye like that. And I think adding those 3 trees really did finish off this whole scene here and added a lot to this die cut. So after I'm done with that, I really like how that turned out, and now it's time to actually work on the lighting portion. I know I've said that a lot here. So I'm starting off by just adding lots of adhesive to the back of this. I'm starting out with some tape runner, and then I'm going to go in with some collage matte medium on some of those finer areas because I want everything to be nice and stuck down. So just adding collage matte medium to those little rays and trees. Then I'm going to take a piece of vellum and stick it right to the back of this card, and this vellum is going to kind of mute some of that lighting. So you don't want to just kind of add an acetate window because then it's kind of see-through and you don't really want to see each individual light. You could definitely stop with 1 layer of vellum, but I tested it before this and I thought at least 2 layers of vellum really helped it out, and the 2 layers really did a great job of kind of masking off, you know, any of seeing the lights when they're not really turned on. So I'm going to add lots of adhesive behind this again, and then I'll add another piece of vellum onto this. And you could even add a third, depending on what you like. You can kind of see how mine looks when I add the lighting in here and see what you might want. But you could definitely go further than this to mask this area off. So it's kind of almost like creating a little shaker card here. So then you can see that vellum really did mask off a lot. You can still see a little bit from underneath, but not too much. And then it's just like a shaker card here where I'm creating a little window for the lights to fit in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some foam tape. This is 3M foam tape, and I'm going to double it up. So I'm adding 2 layers of foam tape together by folding it onto each other. This is because the lights are pretty thick, so you want there to be lots of room in there. And then I'm going to save even more foam tape by just cutting this strip in half. So you've got lots to work with then with just that little bit of foam tape there. And all I need to do is just go around the edge with this little area of foam tape. Now you could go in that circle and create that circular window. You might have to do 3 layers of foam tape because there might be kind of a bunch of lights that's a little bit thicker there. But I'm just making this whole rectangle be kind of a light up area. So I'm adding just that thin border of that foam tape, and you don't need anything in the center because that's where all the lights are going to go. So these lights come really nice and wrapped up, and I'm going to kind of undo it and kind of create a little bit of what looks like a tangled mess. There's a little bit of a method to my madness though. I'm trying to get it kind of a rectangle shape just like this window is, and then you'll see I left a little bit without some foam tape, and that's where that battery pack is going to come out of this little area here. So we want one of those little areas to stick out there, and you can see I peeled off the backing and got my lights a little bit more situated in this frame here. So then I've got them all situated on the back there, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. It's not too difficult, but you want to make sure you're holding all those lights in. You got them all contained, and then I'll line that up onto my Ocean Mist Gina K Designs card base, and I'm going to just adhere that down there. Okay, so once that's all adhered, I'm going to test out the lights here, and I really love how that looks with the 2 layers of vellum. Like I said, I tested it beforehand, so if you don't love how it looks here, you might want to add 3 layers or even 4. You can kind of go crazy with the vellum to get the exact look that you like. Now you can definitely see a couple other bulbs around in that rectangle there. It didn't really bother me, but you could definitely, like I said, make it just that circle frame. So then for the sentiment, I wanted a sentiment that said, "You're my light." I didn't have one though, so I'm taking this Hero Arts Luggage Tag Alphabet stamp set, and I'm lining it up on my Misty Creative corner, and I'll push up on that and then add it onto an acrylic block. So I've got this big bold word that says light then, and then I'm going to add some clear sticky ink and then this black ink on top and stamp it down onto a strip of cardstock. And then I'll add some clear embossing powder over top and heat that up. So what this is just going to do is it's going to make it a little bit shiny, and I really like that when they're big and bold sentiments like this. I think it really helps them stand out on the card. So now I wanted something that said "You're my," so I took this Gina K stamp set, and this happens to be a sentiment that says "You're my person." I definitely went off screen here, so hopefully you get the idea. You can definitely cut your stamps down, which is what I wanted to kind of explain here. It's not going to harm your stamps. You can always mount them together exactly how they were meant to be earlier, but this just allows you to get even more use out of your stamps, so I think it's definitely worth it. Your stamps aren't screaming, don't worry, they're getting a little bit more use. So I'm going to use a darker kind of blue ink and stamp it down on the same Ocean Mist cardstock that matches my card base. So I'll stamp this down, and then I'm going to cut a little banner strip and I'll add it on to my card using some foam tape. So that completes that fun little sentiment there that says "You're my light." I think that is really awesome to have that large, bold sentiment, and it does cover up some of those little areas with the light bulbs in the background too that you might not want to see. So here's that finished card with those lights. I love how that looks with that window there, and I definitely want to see all your creations too, so be sure to tag me on Instagram at Inkclips. I cannot wait to see what you guys create with these fun little fairy lights in your cards. I think it's a really cool idea, and it's a little more cost effective than using little lights. Alright, I hope you guys really enjoyed that video and that fun way to use these lights inside of your card. I think it's super awesome to light up the whole card and really get that interactive feel. So if you did enjoy it, please give it a big thumbs up. Be sure to click that subscribe button down below if you never want to miss another video like this one. And also leave me a comment down below, maybe letting me know what you would do with these fairy lights or kind of what your favorite part of the card was. I would love to hear your thoughts down there, and I would love to talk to you down there as well. I also think these fairy lights have even more potential than what I shared in today's video, maybe even for some holiday kind of themed cards, so maybe I'll have to share another video in the future. But I hope to see you guys very soon for another card making and crafting video. Have a great day. Bye!